Hello and welcome to another life lesson from an emotional awareness expert. My name is Reeve and today we're going to talk about integrity, especially when it comes to paying forward the lessons about integrity to teenagers and young adults. And this kind of triggered my thinking after reading a comment yesterday about what integrity is. And there were lots of different people coming up with different answers about what it meant for them. But of course, I'm going to turn it into a parenting teens lesson or parenting young adults and something that is going to support our next generation. Otherwise, I wouldn't be me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow the channel. Click the notification bell for when more videos come out. So for me, integrity is something that has always been a strong part of who I am from a young age. And I always felt that if I upheld my integrity, there are always people in life that want to break down our integrity, attack our good name, try to undermine us, try to throw us under the bus. Everything that goes on in the life of teenagers and young adults, these are all everyday occurrences for them. Having friends betray them, stab them in the back, undermine them, oust them to somebody else for something they've done. And the peer pressure is incredible. It's difficult enough as adults, and these are things that happen in the workplace too. And even as young adults, having to go into the workplace and maintain their integrity can involve a lot of very difficult lessons. And so for me, giving them the awareness of the importance of integrity and where it can also be a negative to have too much integrity as well. Sometimes it can overstep into egotism. So it's finding that boundary between not protecting your own boundaries and actually having this wall around us that becomes this egotistical personality. And we've got to find a balance in the middle. Integrity is, for example, when somebody accuses us of something, can we stand up to that accusation in our personality, in our own nature of who we are, to the point where other people say, well, that can't be right. They wouldn't do something like that, even though someone's trying to accuse us of something. And for a lot of younger children coming up into teens, this comes down to the ability to say yes or no to things. So integrity sounds like quite a complex topic, but even from a younger age, they can start with the ability to say yes and no. For example, my grandson last year, at only 8 years old, had a school friend who had this knack of getting things done that he wanted to do by passing the buck on to somebody else. And so this school friend was saying to my grandson, oh, will you do this for me? Will you do that for me? You're my friend. And so my grandson was doing what his friend asked. But the friend was smart and knew that he would get in trouble for these things. And therefore, when they got found out, it was my grandson that got in trouble for doing them. And so I explained to him that sometimes, although people do act as our friends, they will ask us to do things as a favor because they know we're going to get in trouble instead of them. And we have the right to say no. We have the right to say, I would get in trouble if I do that, and I'm not going to, because I want to be a good person. I want to make the right choices. I want to do the right things. And when we teach that lesson to children, teenagers, young adults in the right way, to get them to understand the power they have in saying no, it helps them tremendously as they move into bigger risks where perhaps you've got teenagers who are being peer pressured into smoking and more, drinking, get into other hazing pranks. There's so many pranks, hazing pranks that go around the internet now that they feel like because there's a latest craze going around on one of the social media platforms that they have to take part. Otherwise, they're not part of the gang or the clan or the whatever it is that, you know, their clique of friends. And they have the ability to say no and maintain their integrity. Now, on the flip side of this, if they feel like they're going to be rejected from a group of friends for saying no, the lessons that they need to understand are, well, if somebody is going to turn their back on you because you're doing what you think is right, are they really the right people that you want to be friends with? and to then learn about the circle of influence. That's another video I can do a bit later down the line. But circle of influence is just as important when it comes to integrity as the ability to say yes and no. When my own daughter was in school, there was this craze about really silly talk. And it came off the back of the Teletubbies program. And all these teenage girls were talking to each other in these strangest voices and words that were not proper words and just making up their own language. And then my daughter was struggling with her English lessons. Even though she was very good at it, she was just finding it a challenge to know how to spell things. And I said, if you was to actually use the correct language when you're speaking, for example, with your friends, I said, then it would make it easier for you to spell these words in lessons. But because you're trying to write one language and talking to your friends with a different language, I said, you've got a disconnect in your learning. So she said, but if I spoke to my friends normally like that, they'd think I'm strange and I didn't want to be friends with them. And I said, okay, I understand that. I said, but let's look at this another way round. So I'm giving her the options. I'm not telling her she's got to change. I'm giving her information at this point to give her the power to make her own changes. And that's also an important part of paying this forward, is giving them the power to make the changes. And so I said, what if you was to say to your friends that you really want to do better in your English? You want to be able to pass your written assignments and pass your exams. And so if you were to say to your friends, look, for the time being, I'd really like to be able to just talk normally so that I can focus on getting through my English lessons and see what they say. And she was saying, no, but they wouldn't like that. They would laugh at me. So I said, okay. I said, if your friends are going to laugh at you for that, and that's going to put you at risk of not failing or not passing your exams, I said, are they really the kind of friends that you want supporting you through your exam period? And she did think about it. So I didn't give her like an ultimatum. I know many parents do this. You're hanging around with the wrong crowd and you need to change your friends and they're no good for you and all of that. That's not helpful. We need to empower them to make that decision themselves. And it was literally only a few days later that my daughter came up with a decision. And also around this time, I was already home educating my son. And we were sitting around the dining table one night when my daughter, we were just having this generic conversation as a family, going randomly all places. And a word came up where she said, what does that mean? And before I could open my mouth to answer, my son, who's 2 years younger than my daughter, had already responded to tell his older sister exactly what this word meant. Well, she felt a little embarrassed that her younger brother, who didn't even go to school, could already answer this question. So that combined with the conversation about school friends and the silly language and the English lessons meant that she came home a couple of days later and said, can I come out of school and be home educated as well? Now, that's not the answer we want from every teenager for every problem. And we did have to take the conversation further and make sure it wasn't just a rash decision. But at the same time, it meant that she learned a big lesson also about her integrity amongst her friends and what was important to her. And she didn't leave school because she'd fell out with the friends. She still stayed in touch with them. And she didn't leave school because she felt embarrassed or that she'd failed at school. She actually recognized that she wanted to learn and she wanted to learn the best way possible. And on evaluating her circumstances, she decided that actually that was at home with me. And for me, a lot of home education was actually to stop teaching my children and let them learn themselves. And then when they had questions, I was there to support them and back them up in exactly the same way as I was with all the emotional challenges. So I hope that's inspired you today to talk to them more about integrity. So whether they are going into college, university, work, and then they've got other colleagues who, even in workplaces, will try to bypass security processes and policies and potentially could get them fired. I had a manager who I'd gotten great with, and he had this very strong ethic about we follow policies and we follow procedures. And if there is a gap missing and there's no policy to cover a task, then you stop work. And it's management position, management responsibility to put those procedures in place before the employees continue. And then when this manager found gaps in policies and procedures, but needed something done urgently, the same manager, he'd come to me and say, okay, I'm really busy. Can you do this with me? Can you do that for me? I'd have to think, hang on a minute. He's asking me this because there's no policy or procedure for this, or it goes against what the policies and procedures actually were. And he's trying to cheat. And I used to say, no, I can't do that because that's against the policy, or there is no procedure for that. And he used to get angry with me. Yeah, absolutely. But I had to learn that his anger wasn't actually angry at me. He was angry at himself, really. And he did eventually admit to me that, yes, there were times when he tried to work his way around the circumstances by asking me things he shouldn't have asked me. And he said, I know I got angry when you said no. He said, but I really respect that you did say no and you stood your ground. He respected that I upheld my integrity. And so for me, that was very well worth it. And for teenagers and young adults going out there into the world, learning the value of that from early on is not just going to put them ahead with the odd one or two situations. It's going to put them ahead as a human being for life. So I hope that's inspired you today to have some amazing conversations with them. And if you haven't checked out the videos about safe space for talking, I also have a course on the website. I'll put the link down below, which is about a safe space for talking to teenagers. And it covers a lot of the pitfalls that teenagers can get drawn into in those years between the age of 13 and 19 and into early adulthood. There are a lot of challenges that they face just transitioning into adult life that can draw them the right way with the right conversations, and can easily, if you don't follow through the right conversations with them, have them falling down all kinds of rabbit holes that they don't want to be going down. So that's the power of a safe space for talking, and conversations like this about integrity are the times when you can use those to boost them and boost their morale and their ability to build their own resilience through those safe space for talking. Thank you for listening today, and check out some more of my life lessons from emotional awareness experts. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow the channel. Click the notification bell for when more videos come out. Because when you follow and support my channel, it helps put the algorithms in front of other people as well. And this might be just the lifeline that they needed today to help them through something that they were challenged with. So for now, bye-bye, hugs and healing from me. See you in the next life lesson.